Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Code Switch in 2020. Today we continue with our grade 12 mathematics, looking at basic solve for x. So this is grade 11 stuff, but they are being asked in grade 12. So I'm going to treat these questions because most learners are struggling with solve for x. So I'm going to treat it as if I'm teaching people who don't understand how to solve for x. So if you do, please pause the video, try the following questions, then after continue the video to see where you got it correct and do corrections as well. So without any waste of time, let's look at the first one. The question said, solve for x, round off to 2 decimal places where necessary. Looking at the first question is x squared equal to 6x minus 5 for 3 marks. Second one, x, open brackets, 4 minus x, close brackets, equals negative 4 for 5 marks. Question number 3 is 4 minus x is less than 3x squared. Solution for the first one, we are given x squared equal to 6x minus 5. So x squared is on the left hand side and other terms are on the right hand side. So we need to transpose 6x and negative 5 to the right hand side. So the second step will be x squared. When 6x goes to the left hand side, if it's positive, changes the sign, becomes negative 6x. When negative 5 goes to the left hand side, becomes positive 5, will be equals to 0. Looking at this equation, we see that we can find factors. We open 2 brackets. This will be equal to 0. Factors of x squared, it's x multiplied by x. Meaning on the first bracket we're going to write x and x. And factors of 5, it's only 5 multiplied by 1. So we're going to write 5 and 1. What about the signs? Since we have minus and positive, the last positive sign tells us that inside the bracket we must look at the first sign, meaning our brackets will have negative and negative because of the last positive sign. So we're going to have negative and negative. Since we are solving for x, it means one of our brackets must be equal to 0. Then we're going to say x minus 5 will be equal to 0, or x minus 1 will be equal to 0. Then we transpose negative 5 to the right hand side. X will be equal to positive 5, or x will be equal to this negative 1 to the right hand side becomes positive 1. That's how we solve for x when we are having factors. But if you are at a standard form and you don't know how to find factors, you are allowed to use quadratic formula. Then how do we allocate our mark? It's 1, 1, and 1 for factors. So it becomes 3 marks. Please mark yourself. So let's look at the second question. Question number 2. It's x into 4 minus x, close brackets, equal to negative 4. So we must try at this point. Most mistakes that learners make, they tend to say, because of they have monomial times binomial, some will say x equals negative 4, or 4 minus x equals to negative 4. Which is this? It's incorrect. Please don't do this. Instead, what you must do, these are some of the mistakes that learners make. Instead, what you must do is you must start by simplifying first. Multiply x with 4 becomes 4x. Multiply x with negative x becomes negative x squared. Will be equal to negative 4. Then after you transpose negative 4 to the left hand side, you bring down negative x, it becomes negative x squared. You bring down positive 4 plus 4x, you transpose negative 4, becomes positive 4, will be equal to 0. Then we need the coefficient of x to be positive, but you can leave it as negative as well, it's fine. Then let's divide both sides by negative, by negative, by negative, by negative 1. What you do on the left hand side, you must also do it on the right hand side. Negative x squared divided by negative 1 becomes positive x squared. Positive 4 divided by negative becomes negative 4x. Positive 4 divided by negative becomes negative 4, will be equals to 0. Why do we divide by negative? It's because of it makes it easier to work with a positive x squared. So we ask ourselves, do we have factors that when we multiply or that when we add we'll get negative 4? Looking at our equation, we are not going to have factors. Then we must use quadratic formula. Quadratic formula state the following. It says the value of x will be given by negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Then what we say is correct formula, then we need correct substitution. The value of a is the coefficient of x squared, which is positive 1. The value of b is the coefficient of x, which is negative 4. The coefficient of c is our constant, which is negative 4. Then once we got our value, we substitute. X will be given by negative into negative 4 plus minus the square root of our b, which is negative 4 squared minus 4. What is the value of a? It's 1. Value of c, negative 4. All divided by 2 into the value of a, which is negative 1. Therefore, after correct substitution, you simplify the discriminant. Discriminant is what is inside the root. So we're going to say this will be equal to negative times negative is positive 4 plus minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 multiplied by negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 4 is positive 16. So this is 16 plus 16, which is 32. All divided by 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. Therefore, we separate plus minus. X will be given by 4 plus the square root of 32 over 2, or x will be given by 4 minus the square root of 32 over 2. Then we simplify. X will be given by 4 plus the square root of 32 over 2, correct to decimal place, is 4,83. Or x will be given by 4 minus the square root of 32 over 2 is negative 0,83. That will be the value of x. When we allocate our mark, we say we give you a mark for writing this in a standard form. Correct substitution. Simplifying the discriminant. 1, 2 for both answers. Then that will be 5. So mark yourself. So let's look at the last question. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 said 4 minus x is less than 3x squared. So since we have the inequality sign, it means we must solve for x using inequalities. So you must know how to solve inequalities and understand basic rules of inequalities, like when you multiply by a negative sign or divide by a negative sign, the inequality sign must change. So we have 4 minus x will transpose positive 3x squared to the left hand side. Then it becomes negative 3x squared minus x plus 4 is less than 0. As I have said that it's easier to work when the coefficient of x squared is positive. We divide both sides by negative 1, by negative 1, by negative 1, by negative 1. Negative 3x squared divided by negative 1 is positive 3x squared. Negative x divided by negative 1 is positive x. Positive 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4. When we divide by a negative sign, the inequality sign changes. This becomes greater than 0. So this is in a standard form. You ask yourself, do I have factors? If you don't, you use quadratic formulas. But in most cases, we always have factors when we are dealing with inequalities. Then we open 2 brackets, we factorize to find critical values. This will be greater than 0. Factors is 3x and x. Factors of 4 that when you multiply and add will get positive 1. It must be positive 4 this side and negative 1 this side. Because of the last sign says the sign must be negative and the bigger number must take positive. So our critical values, x will be equal to negative 4 over 3, or x will be equal to 1. Those are our critical values, not our final answer. Then we take our critical values on a number line. We start with the smaller value of x, which is negative 4 over 3 and 1. You take any number that is less than 4 over 3. You can take negative 2, substitute it here on your factors and see if your answer will be positive or negative. Let's take negative 2. For example, you are going to say 3 into negative 2 plus 4 into negative 2 minus 1. When you punch on your calculator, you must see if you'll get positive or negative answer. So we are not interested in the value but the sign. The sign will be positive. Then you write positive here. Every time you substitute your critical values on these vectors, you will get 0 and 0. Then you take any value that is between negative 4/3 and 1. You substitute it here. Then we'll take 0. This will be 3 into 0 plus 4 into 0 minus 1. And check if your answer will be positive or negative. We are not interested in the value. The answer will be negative. Then you write negative here. Then you take any value that is greater than 1. Let's take 2. You're going to say this is 2. This is 3 into 2 plus 4, open brackets, 2 minus 1. Then you check if the value will be positive or negative. Then the value will be positive. Then you write positive. You don't have to write these things on your paper. You can just do it aside, or you can just punch it straight on the calculator, because we are only interested on the sign. Then you have to reach the conclusion. What is your conclusion saying? It says the equation was saying we need the values where x will be greater than 0. Meaning we need the positive side. We get the positive side when x is less than 4/3. We get the positive sign when x is greater than 1. Then how do you make your conclusion? It means that x, the value of x must be greater than negative 4/3, or x must be greater than 1. That should be the value of x. So that will be all. How do we do our marking? The first part, we say transposing negative 3 this side and writing the standard form, we give you a mark. Then again, for factors, we give you a mark. For the sign check, we give you a mark, and 1 mark for the inequality sign. Now this inequality sign, it's wrong. It's not greater than. Its x must be less than negative 4/3, or x must be greater than 1. So thank you for watching. For more videos, please go to Code Switching 2020.